Welcome to DNA Profiling, where we will be taking a brief look at DNA profiling in today's criminal justice system. What is DNA exactly? Why should we care about DNA? How does it benefit the average person? Are there dangers to using DNA in the criminal justice system? Let's take a look at the answer to each of these questions. Deoxyribonucleic acid. You may have never heard that phrase, but I'm sure you've heard its abbreviation, DNA. DNA is the genetic code for each person on the planet, and the same way each person is unique, so too is their DNA. A system was developed in the 1980s to test samples of someone's DNA. This is called DNA profiling. They take samples of hair, skin, saliva, and other biological material, compare them against other samples, and determine if they match. 30 years after this development, DNA profiling is now commonplace in law enforcement and criminal investigations. Since the 1980s, criminal investigators have been collecting biological material from crime scenes to aid them in looking for suspects using DNA profiling. You may find yourself asking if this really does make a difference in criminal investigations. In 2009, a field study was conducted to determine the effectiveness of DNA profiling, and it was discovered that through traditional methods of criminal investigation, 13% of cases will have a suspect identified. This same study found DNA profiling identifying a suspect in 16% of criminal investigations with negligible crossover. This more than doubles the identification rate of suspects by investigators. In fact, it is a 223% increase. DNA profiling is not just used in the conviction of criminals, but also in the exoneration of wrongfully convicted citizens. According to Robert Norris, the first case of a conviction being overturned thanks to DNA evidence was in 1986, just 3 years after the first use of DNA evidence in a conviction. Since the first instance, the National Institute of Justice reports that DNA evidence has been used to exonerate 342 people as of 2016. This number will only increase as DNA profiling procedures and equipment become more advanced. Every rose has its thorn, and DNA profiling is not perfect either. Its success has meant constant improvements, such as increased sensitivity and advancements in storage and pretreatment. However, these improvements in sensitivity invite false positives. A false positive outcome usually occurs when environmental DNA is introduced into the tests. Ballantyne, Poi, and Van Oorschot refer to environmental DNA as DNA that was not collected at the crime scene, but was contributed by either investigators, lab technicians, or someone within the supply chain of the testing equipment or collection items. A famous example of environmental DNA affecting an investigation is the case of the Phantom of Heilbronn. From 1993 to 2008, European investigators found DNA evidence matching a lone woman at over 40 crime scenes. After years of searching, the source of the DNA samples was discovered to be a factory worker at the manufacturing plant of the cotton swabs used by authorities. To prevent situations like this from happening again, most laboratories have implemented environmental DNA monitoring procedures, or EDM. These procedures include having all of the laboratory technicians' DNA on file and standards for what collection items to use. While DNA profiling has been used for over 30 years now, it is still a relatively new technology and will continue to advance as its popularity increases. The benefit to law enforcement and those wrongfully imprisoned is invaluable. Though it has growing pains, it will be a staple of criminal investigations for years to come.